Statistics for infidelity within marriage is between 20 and 25%.
Is it really that high?
Yep. And for non-married couples, it's 30 to 40%. You may be together 20 years and then decide that you want to start opening up the relationship. Swingers and open kind of relationships that I know of. We've even attended a few of the parties just to have a look and, for investigation and research purposes.
So more than just open relationship, there's so many different varieties.
Correct. Then we move into things like polyamory.
Polyamory.
Okay.
So what is ethical non-monogamy? This is Between the Sheets by MHC, a podcast about sex, intimacy and relationships. Hello, James here from the Men's Health Clinic. Today I'm going to be talking to Nick Brewer, who's our in-house sex and intimacy therapist. And we're going to be talking about ethical non-monogamy and the limitless possibilities. I really hope you enjoy the session. So episode 6, and this is all about ethical non-monogamy and the limitless possibilities. And I'm intrigued to know all about the different pockets of society and sexual appetites that is out there. We live in a time that celebrates diversity, of course, and allowing choices that were once limited are now being much more discussed, and couples are getting involved, aren't they? And so there's an acceptable dynamic for that, and there's an unacceptable dynamic for that. So I want to talk about that, and exploring romance in modern relationships would be good. And there's lots of different ways to have a relationship these days, isn't there? It really is, it's a minefield out there, really. If you don't understand what sort of relationship you want, what are the various different types of relationships?
Yeah, well, first of all, as you said, we are living in ever-changing times where just about anything is acceptable. People are making up their own rules. There are so many dynamics these days. Actually, I even have trouble keeping up. There's just so many different categories. But what we're seeing is more and more the traditional institution of marriage is just becoming questioned more and more. The statistics for infidelity within marriage is between 20 and 25%.
Is it really that high?
Yep. And for non-married couples, it's 30 to 40%. So we're seeing a lot of cheating, okay? So, and that has been our only choice. We cheat or death do us part, and, we put up with everything. Or if you're allowed to, you get divorced. That have kind of been our only options.
Yep.
Now we're seeing a swing to, we call it ENM, ethical non-monogamy.
Okay, ENM.
Let's keep that short. That's a mouthful.
Excuse the pun.
And ENM is essentially, you get to make up your own rules. You get to live the relationship the way you want. It is a consensual.
Consensual's the key.
Consensual is really what we're going to talk about today, because clearly if two people are happy doing whatever they're doing, then no one else really has the right to say anything.
True.
So straight away we're getting rid of this whole cheating and need for infidelity, because when couples have the freedom to be themselves, then everyone's needs can get met. Well, I think, again, James, that getting 2 or 3 years down the track is near impossible. If you are already embracing these types of lifestyles, you're a very open-minded person, I believe. You've got very good communication skills.
Right.
You are very aware of what you want, what you need, how to handle emotions, et cetera, et cetera. There is no way you're going to stay in a relationship that's not at all fulfilling and then suddenly wake up and go, oh, surprise,
Yeah,
I like group
see.
sex.
Yeah, makes sense.
Kind of doesn't work like that. Although, so it's about, you would go on the appropriate websites. There's websites for all sorts of different relationships now, not just your traditional Tinders and Bumbles, of course. There's all sorts of kinks and alternative relationship.
And even would you say even a shapeshifter might be somebody that wouldn't say it in those early days, and then they sort of realise later, because they've been trying to please somebody just because of pleasing, but then they actually then think, hold on a sec, I actually really like group sex, I really wish I'd have levelled with that person to start with or something.
Sure. Again, that's an individual case. Of course it can evolve like that. I guess I'm thinking more of people who are already in touch with their sexuality and their needs. But it can also evolve. You may be together 20 years and then decide that you want to start opening up the relationship, leading, and we'll get into all the different possibilities of what that could look like in a minute. But yeah, again, if you have the communication skills, and let's be clear, we're back to the emotional intimacy. If you aren't able to say, honey, I'm really thinking that I would love to try this or date other people or whatever, that's not going to land very well if you don't have a connected, close relationship. You can't just throw that on the kitchen table. It's not going to be met. But if you've grown together over a while, but you're still totally in love, but maybe you have the idea to bring something new in.
Maybe it starts with a fantasy and then it...
Exactly.
Yeah. So what is ethical non-monogamy? So
that's where both partners are fully consensual of whatever sexual or romantic components they now want to introduce into the relationship. There's no coercion. There's no fear of, I better do this or I'm going to lose them. That's not actually ethical because both parties aren't fully convinced that that's what they want. So ethical non-monogamy is really, having those conversations where you both consent and get to make up your own rules, how you're now going to live that relationship or marriage.
Have you ever come across couples that make the wrong decision there, regret it?
I have quite a few friends here in Amsterdam who move in the swingers world.
Does it ever go pear-shaped for them?
Many times. There's a lot. The Germany and Netherlands are probably the biggest countries with the most amount of
swingers,
and open kind of relationships that I know of. I have many friends over here. I've even attended a few of the parties just to have a look and, for investigation and research purposes.
But they're very consensual, aren't they? Which is when you're safer than going to a club, really.
They are very consensual, and that's what I found the difference was. I felt a lot safer in that environment.
Interesting, yeah.
Because no means no. If I go to a local bar, you have guys hitting on you.
Absolutely.
Do they mean yes when they mean no?
Yeah.
You go to any kind of swingers party or a club, let me be clear, you do not have to participate. You can just go and, as I did.
It's a safe place, really.
Walked around with a friend just to check it out and to meet people. Everybody knows why they're there. There's none of this game playing, but at the same time, no means no. And, I've had men come up to me and approach me and I just say, thanks, I'm just here with my friend. We're just having a look.
They're probably lovely
We've never
about
been.
it.
Totally. They're so respectful, have a great night, and that's kind of the end of it. And there's very heavy security. They even, nobody is allowed to lay a finger on you and they're thrown out. So
whereas in a club you could have a lech on you all night sort
exactly,
of thing.
These drunken idiots, so that none of that behaviour is tolerated. So in one way that's good. But then we also have the other side there. I've seen couples where the woman has gone along for it because the man has pushed her into it. And that never works. It eventually falls over. There's either a lot of drug use involved in these clubs where they're doing things they would normally not do because they're under the influence, or still people aren't honest. And I think that was the biggest shock to me. It's like you're allowed to go and have sex with anyone you want in this club and yet you're still getting a phone number of somebody over there behind your husband's back? I don't understand this. So this is where relationships form, and it's not even about sex anymore. They just really have lost interest in their partner. So it can go wrong in these relationships too.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing is perfect. But
Can see that, yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot of different examples of different dynamics of relationships.
So more than just open relationship, there's so many different varieties.
Correct. So let's just take open relationships. There can be all sorts of rules within that. It can be you don't spend the night with a person. It's really only about sex. And it may be only when you travel, or you can only have sex with that person, the same person twice, or
I see that. Okay.
you see, but you two are you're defining the rules. So there is never this feeling of, oh, I can't do what I want. We're deciding together, which kind of makes a lot of sense, right? There's none of this, I have to cheat if I'm fully allowed to do what I want. And of course, that's from couple to couple. It would depend if you have kids. It would depend on so many things. Then we move into things like polyamory.
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 Okay. Yeah. Tell me about that one.
So in an open relationship, when we're usually dealing with it just being sex. I love you. I want our marriage, but I want to have sex with different people. When we come to polyamorous relationships, we're talking about the potential of love and romance. So being in love with multiple people at the same time.
All living together and sharing the same bed? Or?
You name it, the different. We have polyfidelity, which is a group of people. There might be, they're called pods. We might have 10 people in a pod. So there's you, me, your girlfriend, my boyfriend, their neighbour, and that's
the greengrocer around the corner.
But that's our pod, and we are monogamous within our 10 people pod.
Okay.
Then we have kitchen table polyamory.
Kitchen table polyamory.
Yeah, as the name suggests, it's more of a family, and I'm not talking incest, but a more family type dynamic where there'll be your partner and their partner's partner, and it's basically everybody who could sit around a kitchen table together, and it may be sexual. Some of them may have friendships and romantic connections, but we're all interrelated, almost like a family.
Okay.
Now we have hierarchies within those relationships. So there may be a primary relationship. So just say you and I were married, we would be the primary partners. You'd have your girlfriend, I'd have my boyfriend, but they're our secondaries, which means let's just, for an example, it's my birthday. I would take preference over her.
Yeah.
Because I'm the hierarchy, I'm at the top of the pile. And we may live together and we still have our children, whereas they're on the side. And again,
actually, I've known a couple like that, and what they do is they have to feed when they're with the other person. They sort of constantly sending photos back to the wife or that sort of thing. So everyone's in. It's sort of all consensual.
Yeah. It takes a lot of organisation. I know people who have calendars. They have like group calendars where they all book in their
serious
time.
business.
You can imagine time management. It's hard enough to manage one relationship. So we have hierarchy of primary, secondary, tertiary.
So what about you mentioned one that I can't even pronounce. It's called how do you pronounce it?
Anarchy relationships.
Yeah.
Where there is literally no order. We don't want any labels. We don't want any rules.
Right. Hence the word
I wouldn't even call you, well, we probably wouldn't be married, but I would introduce you as James. So there's not even this label of you're my partner, my boyfriend, my husband. You're just James. We want to just defy everything that societal might want to put on us. Okay, we make our own rules based on
just
mutual
sex,
respect.
really.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It could be more, but we're not going to define it.
I see.
Okay, it's total anarchy. Okay, We have thruples, which is
It's becoming more common, isn't it?
It is. They've actually made a Netflix series, You, Me, Her, which is great. So a married couple. Now, again, I'm just going to maybe talk. Yeah, I mean, it can be any gender, of course. We can make up these, but
So thruples, because in the Middle East, guys have had plenty of wives for many years, haven't they? At once, so
it's
but
called
that's
a harem.
That's called a harem. Okay, yeah.
Or
Lucky buggers.
Or the Mormons, they have polygamy where they're allowed to have 4, 5, 6 wives.
Yeah.
And so again, that's another dynamic. But a throuple was usually a married couple or a partnership. And
that has a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever.
And they bring that third person in. Now, it's not just sex. It's literally like instead of being a couple, we're now a full relationship, the three of us. So it's an equal thing. Maybe the wife goes off to work and the husband's with the other woman in bed still, or maybe it's 2 men and a woman, but there's no it's a complete equal. Sometimes they get married, so the 3 of them will have a commitment ceremony if it's not a legal thing in the country, but they're given
and
equal.
they're happy threesomes.
Throuples,
yeah.
Because obviously a threesome is more sexual. A throuple is a lifelong commitment, okay?
Okay.
We have a V. Sorry, what's
a V? What is a V?
A closed V.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we have the hinge and we have these 2 people. So if this is me and I have this partner and this partner, I have sex with both of you, but you 2 aren't allowed to have sex and you're not allowed to have sex with anybody else. So that's all about me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
right.
You name it,
Sounds
James.
like a good one.
Yeah, you name it, James. Like it exists these days. Really the sky's the limit. It really is just about how do you navigate these things. Again, communication. You have to be 100% stating your needs. You cannot say I'm okay with something and, the next person, they've fallen in love and they've run off with someone. That has to be a boundary. If you don't want them to become emotionally attached, it needs to just be sexual.
Out of all those different types, which of those are most successful next to monogamy, would you say?
I couldn't tell you statistic-wise which is the most successful. I mean, they all have their drawbacks and benefits, of course.
And then swingers, of course.
Yeah, the swingers is based purely on sex. I mean, even in that world, you may have specific couples that you do repeatedly hook up with rather than just going to a party and having randoms. You may then find a couple of couples that you will have your own intimate swinging parties with. So you're not always going for strangers. That way you can screen, I guess, sexual health or just a little bit more intimacy, but without it crossing into emotional or feelings. But I guess, polyamory, where we're talking about full-blown loving other people, I think they probably tend to stay together a little bit more because it's based on a lot more than just sex.
And I suppose if there's children around and they see that, then they might actually want to do that themselves. And so
this is another thing to really think hard about, whether you bring children into that dynamic if you haven't had kids yet. I've also seen pods where the kids are kind of included, and just like they may have 2 mothers or 2 fathers, why not a pod? I guess children can be very resilient, but at the same time, I've also seen them being quite traumatized. So again, you can't definitively say this is the way it's going to go. No,
that makes sense. When does non-monogamy become unethical, do you think?
I think we touched on this at the beginning. It's when we have our boundaries and our rules in place, but then,
If someone goes to get a telephone number in this bar without the partner knowing and all that.
Yeah, it's no longer consensual, or if one partner now wants something different, or are being forced to sort of collude into something they don't want to. I mean, it's just, do we both agree? Is this both what we want? Yeah. That's when it becomes non-ethical anymore.
Yeah. So people that are thinking about, testing the waters or what have you, they should do it sober, no alcohol, no drugs and that sort of thing, so they really understand whether they like it or not, I suppose, because you can go down the wrong pathway terribly, couldn't you?
But I always suggest to clients, before you want to open it up, you may want to start, again, we go back to that basic. Do we feel safe with each other? Are we able to truly ask for what we want and need without fear of being shamed or judged or rejected? If we have that safe space, I still encourage couples to play on those apps, perhaps. Play board game. There's a lot of board games and card games which have some really interesting, like truth or dares. Would you if we did this? Hypothetical.
Yes.
So you're starting
watch the reaction, little
correct.
Giggle.
If you get a major trigger and a major jealousy response come up,
I won't go down that pathway.
You're not going to, bring the maid into the bedroom before you've tested.
I know what I'm asking for Christmas.
Yeah, but I actually gave these to my kids for Christmas, these and my family. I'm really big into these type of conversation starters and exploring intimacy and within their relationships, and because they're your starting point. From there, you can find out, what do I want? And then
you would just uncomplicate it, doesn't it, really, if you start off early and get all this on the table.
Then if you've got the green light, but even then you take it slow. Maybe you go to a sex club and, that's you. Again, you work it out consensually. Yes, we're going to go to a sex club, but we're not going to do anything. We're completely monogamous in the sex club, but we're going to watch people have sex. Or maybe we'll have sex together in a private room and people can open and have a look. But that's our step one. How do we feel? Or were we totally turned off by the experience? You've got to explore together,
Yeah.
You go in there and, your partner's gone for dust and you find him in the bondage room.
Oh, you're having a good time.
Exactly.
You're very unhappy,
completely broken your trust. That's it. It's a done deal. So you have to handle these things every step of the way with a conversation. How did that feel for you? What would the next step be? Would you be okay with seeing me kiss somebody? Like baby steps.
And whether it's then improving your sex life or having a negative effect. Yeah.
And let's be clear, these people are not immune to feelings like jealousy or insecurity.
Human beings.
That's also the misconception, that these are people that just don't really
have any emotion.
Yeah, or they're superficial, so they can just do these things. But they're actually a little bit, and not all, of course, but they are much more, I guess, done a lot more work around their self-development and their communication. It's like, honey, this doesn't feel good. I'm feeling very triggered that you did this with this person tonight. I felt jealous, rather than you're a bastard, you did, it's taking full responsibility.
Yeah, taking responsibility.
And then working through the jealousy, using the jealousy or the insecurity to actually grow the relationship and grow themselves in a positive way. But if it actually is very hurtful, it's inconsiderate, it's selfish, then it's no longer consensual and you've broken trust and boundaries. And
that's how relationships go wrong.
It's hard to recover from that. I have seen that happen a lot. And then sometimes you don't mean to. If you had, one too many drinks or there's drugs involved, any of those in those places can be very easy to misread signs between one another.
Yeah.
So again, before you even step out, it's like, we're not going to get high. We're not going to drink.
Yes.
We're going to
that
have
the advice.
Safe word any moment you're
safe
uncomfortable.
Word. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Or I'm not happy anymore. I want to go. There's no arguing or debating. It's just if one person doesn't feel safe, we're gone. I promise you.
Yeah.
So that builds the trust. Yeah. So it's
Great advice. Thank you.
being honest with what you need. Like if you are really unfulfilled in your relationship, like you have asked to try a particular sex act or you would like to experiment, and I'm not even talking about with other people, maybe it's just maybe it's a new toy, but your partner is so vanilla. If you're not able to get your needs met and your partner doesn't even want to even try and meet you, you've got to start questioning, is this a relationship for me? To me, it's a team effort. You have to be willing to...
Cards on the table.
Yeah, at whatever cost. And if they say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not open to this, that, or you have to be able to...
So you either then make the
walk away.
decision whether you can live with that or that you can't live with
Correct. You can't not force another person to come on board with your sexual preferences if they don't want it.
Yeah, I can see why you put it in your date I know you're in a happy relationship now, but why you would put it on a dating website. Great to get all this out in the open first.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm very comfortable talking about this. So
Yeah.
I challenge, when I was dating, just not in a
just in a
interrogation
nice way.
but I just and
No, but
guys,
they really appreciated
they
it.
did actually. It was like, it's really nice to be this open, and because a lot of them hadn't really thought of this. It's just they don't think that far ahead. It's just like, oh yeah, she's nice, she'll do, but what about the real
It's
stuff?
like lucky dip, really, isn't it? Yeah,
That's
if you
what
don't,
people are doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're too far
Wondering why it doesn't
in.
work out.
Yeah. Or they're too emotionally invested by then, and then there's like, yeah, okay, he's a serial killer, but I could probably work with that,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Exactly, because the emotional connection's too far gone, or too far connected. Just getting back to 50 Shades of Grey, I remember watching that, and, he had a contract, didn't he? See, when you talk about putting all your cards on the table, I mean, couldn't have been more crystal clear, could he? And so is that what you're seeing couples do in those type of situations?
Yeah. I mean,
perhaps not a contract, but...
Well, there are, but I mean, that would be another great podcast to do in the future, BDSM relationships. There are couples that live, not just role play in the bedroom, they live 24/7 dom-sub relationships.
Dom-sub, what is that?
Dominant.
Oh, okay.
Submissive.
Yeah, okay.
That's the DS.
Yeah, abbreviated.
Yeah, so it's actually their lifestyle. The sub will actually be collared, so they actually have a ceremony, almost like a wedding ceremony, where they're given their collar, which they will wear in public in full time to show that they are owned by their dom. I mean, there's layers and layers to this stuff. But what you saw in 50 Shades, he was interested in living a full-time dom-sub relationship.
Full-time, yeah.
So he could have that control. It's about control.
But it was monogamous, wasn't it?
It was. He would only have one sub at a time.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very fascinating how, and let's be clear, the submissive is actually the dominant. Because the submissive will never do anything that she's not comfortable with. So at the end of the day, the sub has the final word. But what you need to understand is the sub loves to please her dom, so she wants to give. But at any point that she's not okay with giving, she will say no, and that's where the game, the role, the situation stops.
Okay.
So the sub actually has the power.
I did not know that.
But what she's doing is choosing to hand over the power to the dom with the knowledge that she trusts and fully respects that he will take care of her.
Is it based on love normally then?
It's based on trust. Trust. Love can be, I mean, married couples who live like this, there would be love, but you can have a dom-sub relationship that is based purely on the power dynamics and trust.
I see.
Of course, there's got to be some care. The misconception is that this is a unwilling relationship, like, and don't get me wrong, now we could go into humiliation, which is another whole part of it, where they want to be treated a certain way.
Cool. That's deep.
That's very deep.
It's another podcast.
That is another podcast. But it's built on the premise that the dom will take very good care of his sub, and at any time she's not comfortable, he will show her the respect. It's not about inflicting as much pain and making her do things she doesn't want to do.
Right.
And
okay.
that's what people think
They
of
do.
BDSM.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah.
No.
Interesting.
The sub is the, I don't know if you've heard the term, topping from the bottom.
No, I haven't actually.
So, yeah, it's when the sub is actually in control. So,
okay.
So, yeah, it's quite
Thank you for
fascinating.
explaining that. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Between the Sheets. Thanks for joining us. If you're enjoying this podcast, give it a like and subscribe so we can keep creating content you'll love. Check out the description below for links to our Facebook and Instagram pages to get more updates about Men's Health Clinic. And if you're experiencing any bedroom health issues, please feel free to book an appointment with us through the booking links provided. If you have questions or want to start your treatment for sexual dysfunctions, reach out to Men's Health Clinic. We offer free online consultation and provide custom treatments. Take care, everyone, and keep the conversation going between the sheets.